Lefty power.
Lefty power. Now let's just talk about power. Let's go through the pieces because we had some fun talking about.
I heard you talking extension, flexion, turn.
Right.
Right? So let's start there. How about if I have this little guy. Anybody a kettlebell person? Workout person? Anyone?
Martin is.
Martin is? Yeah, we are.
I work out for you guys. So does Aaron. So does Jim.
Yeah, so if I wanted to propel this thing any distance, whether I did it this way and I threw it over my head, or whether I did it in a golf swing and I swung it this way, there'd be some elements to how I move my body that would make this thing go further and higher compared to
Do it on the mat. Let me reset.
someone, yeah,
Throw it into the net. I got it reset.
compared to someone who didn't. So would it make any sense to shift this all the way back and then shift it this way? I can do that. Let's do it. Snap the wall.
Pretty cool, George.
Yeah,
That's one way of shifting your weight, isn't it? You guys will get a copy of this in your pool too, by the way. So that's one way of doing it, and this is the way most golfers try to do it. And the problem, obviously, explain that position.
Well, if I was doing that with a driver, I'd probably slice that ball or pull it 50 yards one way or the other. So does everybody see how I've got this little forward flex look? How my head is way in front of my belt buckle? How my rear end's sticking out behind me instead of underneath me? So which one's more powerful, that one, or if I went like this?
I wasn't ready for you there, quick drum roll.
I fell backwards anyway, so that's good. Ready?
Ready.
So here's my extension. I'm going to do that on both sides. So which one throws it higher?
Yeah, so, there's some motion to his trail foot just because you can't help it. And there's all the weight shift you need, right? And then there's this massive pressure change quickly.
Wish I swung like that right there.
Yeah, you wish you could extend that fast.
So, if we look
Did
at
you
this.
film all those?
Yeah, no, I got that.
Okay.
So this is the rear view kind of thing we're looking at in the pressure mat.
So look at that look to it.
So see how this is a piece we were working on the hill quite a bit for slicers, right? Because of your hips, that previous view you saw, where the chest was ahead, that's going to allow the hand path to go wickedly to the,
This
you know,
way.
yeah, why?
Causing me to go like that. Would that be a shallow divot or a deep divot? If I did that deep, right? Compared to a shallow one where I would go this way. So what am I actually doing when I'm doing this curve when my body looks like it's curved that way? Anybody explain to me the pieces? I know you
Flexing and extending.
flexing and extending, right? So I'm going from this bent over or flex forward position. And as I go through the golf balls, I'm hitting this thing into a follow through. I start to go like this. That's literally all it is. So I've seen all you guys stand up from your chair and walk around nice and tall, so I know you can do this. You can't avoid this week. Right?
Yeah.
You're stuck with us. So as I hit this golf ball, I'm flexed forward, but I'm rapidly going into an extension
Yeah.
like that. And that's a huge bit of hitting the ball far. Number one, it's also has to do with curving the golf ball for me left to right, or just drawing the ball in general. Because as I do this, which way do my hands go in relationship to a straight target line? Do they go out, or do they go down and across? Out and up? Out and up, like that, right? So if I'm looking at you guys, they go out and up, like that. What happens if I stay flexed forward?
Keep your head down. Got to keep your head down,
Keep my
bro.
head down. Right?
A lot of power in that
How's
one.
that one? I'm liable to bounce it into the ceiling. Doing it that way. So this extension with our weight on our front leg is super vital for everybody in here, for me and for Jim. If Jim got on this mat, you'd see the extension doing his long drive to the biggest degree. Right? I do it a little bit. He does it a lot.
Sure.
What else do you think?
We'll talk about, Kazi Layton, this little gal we
Sure.
both know, so she went to the Nike Junior Camp. She took some lessons from me last summer. She She's 14 years old. She's 5'2", 3 maybe. She swings at over 90 miles an hour on track hand. She might weigh, she's under 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to be anybody in the room in an arm wrestle, I can assure you. She's just got the most, you want to talk about cracking a whip. Explain what that is.
Yeah, so a girl like that, or even someone like me who's not very big weight-wise, can still swing the club very fast. Because really we want speed in this end, right? And that's what TrackMan's measuring, how fast this thing's moving. So as I extend in my backswing, that allows me to get this lever to move, and this main arm, this lead arm, to move some distance.
Without folding it all
If
up.
I stay flexed forward, and I try to move my arm up a greater distance and get some more vertical force, I have to do it by bending my arms. So if I extend, all of a sudden I became way more flexible, didn't I? Did I really do anything differently? Well, sure I did. Did I get more flexible in that 2-second span? No. I just used my extension, okay? So that's number one. We have to have the potential to swing the club fast by getting this lever to move. So then number two, as I start to move into my downswing, push my weight into my front leg, now I'm poised to what? I'm poised to extend and to jump. So as I use my hips and my pelvis, I start to extend that way, and then I start to extend my upper body, and I'm turning as I'm doing this stuff. All of a sudden, all this energy gets transferred into the end of the whip. So if I do it the most, for me,
That's quick cracking whip.
you've got to be cracking the whip.
Yeah. So here's a shot that he hit a little to the left, basically a little baby fade out there, at 86 miles an hour, you know, so that's, you know, you got a big mark, you know, swinging at 86, 87 miles an hour, and I've seen Coach Aaron get this up over 90 with a 7 iron. Yeah.
You got more than 86 in
Oh, no, totally.
Would it also be correct to say that as the forearm and the shoulder become one straight line, the lever becomes longer with the club?
Well, you know, I'll show you. So somebody's just, Jimmy, watch your fingers. So how about this relationship? Let me give you one little deal in here. So if I came in here and I said, I'm going to create speed right here, I could use muscular force and make this be a windshield wiper, right? Or I could take this in a line, aim it in a line, and while it's got momentum, I could rotate this thing. You see what I mean? And it's using 2 fingers without muscular force, okay? So that's how this little girl can hit it so darn far. Because she takes this outline, Coach Aaron's got this outline condition, he's poised, like he says, and then he's got this force into the ground. What's this doing? Going up. Sure it is. So the quicker this, the faster that goes up, the faster this can shoot out.
What do you mean out of line condition?
So here's in-line condition roughly. The club and the triangle of my arms is roughly in line, not exact. And a lot of people take things perfectly literal, right? I know my wife does. But anyway, so this is, sorry, Lenny. So here's, you know, this roughly in line condition. A good swing creates an out of line condition, out of line condition, out of line condition, not overly out of line. But now you're in a place where your body can shoot something through an inline condition. That's what this little redhead does better than you've ever seen. You know? So
She's going to reach a point where she can't swing too much faster.
right. I mean, it'll be crazy. I bet she'll be a 100-mile-an-hour swinger, and that's probably going to be your ceiling. Maybe 102, but for a lady, that's crazy fast. Because the tour average, she's 14, she already swings at the tour average.
Wow. And her drive and carry?
Yeah, and like college, she flies at 250. You know, for a little sprout. But she's not the best player. There's a little Korean gal in the Bay Area that drums her, shoots under par every day. She's like the second best player. You know, and she hits it far, the little Korean gal, but the Korean gal is just a machine. So, you know, but that's her goal.
Yeah, so a couple things more about creating more power in the backswing. If I'm taking this club back and I keep my trail knee flexed too much, and my hands can't move on any sort of inward path on a circle, so if I do this and I move my hands back in a straight line and keep this flexed so my hips can't turn, that's really limiting. And I know some people maybe have tried to do that before, not to that degree, but keeping the flex in the trail knee, trying to coil around it. Okay, which one's more powerful? Look at this one. Once again, I get limited in the amount I can turn and extend with my upper body, so my arm can only go so far. I'm really tight for my shoulders, so I don't get much of a backswing. Or I can do this and extend my trail leg a little bit. Right, and
weight on the front?
right now.
No, you're back.
Just hit a stock shot and look at it on the mat here. Hang on a second, let me cue it up. Okay, go for it. Okay, that was a good crisp one. So here's a good example on the pressure mat. You know, so there's a swing and produced 88.5 miles an hour, little push bait. So I mean that shot would be on the left ring somewhere out there. Not a bad shot, just not as good as he normally is. Now if we look at what happened in the pressure, I guarantee you he would feel
You can
that.
watch my head right here
Yes.
next to the door.
So there's this. Once his head's not really going anywhere, is it? Yeah, pressure goes to his left side, being that he's a left-handed golfer, because he can't help it, right? And I guarantee you, he feels like I do in that he feels like he's pretty much staying on his lead foot, but there's this athleticism and speed that does create some shift. Now watch before he's even done his backswing how quickly this dot moves into that left foot. You know, so you see all this pressure really go underneath that lead foot. You know, and then up, and there's his hips are forward. Now, you know, there's some youth, right? So there's some more hyperextension than many of the people that can come here. But still, like as long as we start to see pressure in that lead foot, if you can't get enough leftward path, or in this case, sorry, talking to the lefty, if you can't get enough into out path, then we can cheat this a bit if we can't get you that much extension. But most of y'all, you'd be surprised if you can do it. We get too excessive.
I'd say also that I'm not very flexible overall.
Sure.
I'm younger.
Yeah,
But
because
I'm-
you look very flexible to me. I mean, your shoulders are full 90 degrees.
Sure, well, I
Like a
turn my
turn.
hips 45, but, you know. So if I turn my hips 45 degrees and my shoulders go the extra 45, really how hard is that on me? I'm not really creating that much torque, and then I just add a little bit of
We
bend.
just see people that never lose any flex in their fair leg.
Yeah, they don't,
Oh,
most people don't side bend and extend very well. Everybody knows how to turn,
Yeah.
right?
He might be the most least flexible upper body I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
He can't.
So we do these, you'll see
We
with
did
yoga.
yoga tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I try to
You
get
can't-
my shoulders or my elbows together, and I can't even close. Watch Jim.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
see, I can't.
I'm much more open. He's so.
He's more open than I am.
He's
Yeah.
so
I'm
not
tight.
flexible in his upper body, but he's still, you know, doing all this stuff fairly good.
Wow.
So
Yeah, so I don't really have much range of motion.
he
My
doesn't have a
shoulders,
whole lot.
my chest, anywhere in there. My hips are very tight, my hamstrings are tight. They really are. I work on it, but
Aaron, on your backswing and on the backswing, should a person go back as far and as long until it would cause them to come out of their posture? In
that's
other words,
a
like
tricky way of wording it. I know what you mean. So,
Yeah.
so posture, you know, we're talking about this. Posture is let's just call posture this relationship to the ground. Okay?
Mhm.
So if we looked at it that way, and I'm at a dress right now, and now I'm bent forward, okay? If I stayed bent forward, or I kept my quote unquote posture, right?
Spine angle.
And spine angle, and I went like that, I've kept my posture. Notice how I'm in the same forward bend. So I'm not keeping my posture in any of these swings. I'm actually, like I said, taking my forward bend and making it into an
Standing up.
extension. As I extend, I turn. Everybody knows that part. So what would replace that extension? What would keep my head from raising up? What do I have to do right now? Why does this not look like a backswing?
Rotate on a level.
Well, my shoulders are rotated. They're 90 degrees. So what do I have to do?
Yeah,
Tilt. There we
Side
go.
bend.
Oh.
So I need to get myself back
So
to the ball.
stay right there, coach.
Yeah.
Let me get an aim stick and show something. So go into your full side bend backswing. So there's basically a straight line here. Now, when he's in the side bend, he's taking on all this crazy angle there, right? So he's side bent like crazy. At a dress, maybe we have your hip a little left, we've got a fraction of side bend here, just in very little here. As we go into a full backswing, now there's a ton of side bend against my body. So I've stood up a ton here. You don't notice that because the head's not moving around a lot.
Because as we extend like this, we also side bend like this.
So
So my posture's changing. That was a long-winded answer to help you understand it. My posture is continuously changing. Right? So if I did that same thing, so if I kept my forward bend like this, and I took a backswing, I would look like that. Would you agree? If I kept my forward bend.
Yeah.
Now, if I went forward and I hit this ball and I kept my forward bend,
Oh, yeah.
would you agree that I would look like that?
Yeah.
So I kind of have the same 40 degrees of bend, whatever the number is. Now, on all the swings that we've seen kind of this rear view with me on camera, I'm obviously not keeping my forward bend, am I? So I'm extending as I go forward and I start to go into my follow throughs. I'm obviously not keeping my forward bend, am I? I've extended.
Yeah.
So that's constantly changing. To answer your question, your real question, you would go as long as you could before you started to bend your arms too much and lose your structure. So structure is number one, right? Hitting the ground. Speed would be number two in direction. So if I was trying to make a backswing and I could only side bend and extend this long, but I wanted more and I kept going like this,
Oh, yeah.
I'd say you're a lot better off
Down there.
right there. Okay? Maybe then a little bit of range of motion work comes in where you can make that go a little bit further. But I still don't see many people who aren't physically capable of doing the movements. It's the dexterity of doing it, trying to hit a driver on a golf course.
And learning how to
Gets
juggle.
tricky. It's the juggling part.
I don't know if it was my lack of understanding over the years, but clearly I had sort of had the perception of the trail knees staying pretty flexed, and that the trick was to try to see if you can keep it flexed.
Yeah.
But clearly in all these great shots you're all hitting, it is losing some of that flex. It doesn't go straight,
It doesn't block out. By
but it does give you some extra leverage. You
Right.
come up and I.
It may, well, you weren't necessarily perceiving anything wrong because you've read it and been told it.
Let
So
them
you're
know
doing
they-
what
yeah.
people have told you to do or what people have said that you should do. We just, in the way we teach, figure that most people aren't like Camilo Villegas, who can turn their hips and their shoulders enough without losing flex in their trail right.
Oh.
And even further than that, I would say there would be big time hand path and advantages to being able to draw the ball easier if you lose the flex in your trail line. So it wouldn't just be power, it would be a lot to do with the math of how you're getting the ball.
Yeah. So, one more minute, Coach. Let me do my little demo here on, or do the zombie arms. Throw it into the net, Coach. You're good at that.
Oh, the zombie one?
Yeah.
I don't know. You want me to do that?
Well, here, I'll walk through it real quick then.
You better do it.
So,
Go to the back quiet.
yeah, I don't kill
I'm
anybody.
leaving soon. I don't need anything held over my head.
Yeah, so here's the thing about it. If I take, back to Charlie's question, here's an inline condition, right? Give or take. So if I take the club and I put this in an out of line condition, we agree that's out of line?
Uh-huh.
Right. And I just turn. Did my magic fingers throw that into there, or was that a centrifugal relationship as a result of the turn that happened? Sure. So you got something out of line, and Sir Isaac Newton said, whatever, conservation of angular momentum, this thing's going to try to seek an alignment, right? So now if I hold this here, if I just turn, that's speedy enough, but if I can bend over and I can aim this force at the ground, now I can use, just like Coach Aaron was saying, this, how would I throw this medicine ball? Well, the same thing applies with a golf club. Now I can't really hold it in my hands that have fallen out my fingers this way. So I have to put a quote golf grip on it. So there's an out of line condition. Now if I could do that from here and turn and let that seek in line and throw, right? But if I'm bent over to something, now I get to use what? The leverage against the ground to accelerate that. And that's what that little girl does better than anybody I've ever seen for her weight.
Now, it seems like because if the trailing leg isn't staying totally flexed, then you're actually getting more power by, I don't know if that's setting up your front leg for pushing off the ground. But the fact
So
that
power doesn't come from pushing. Power comes from, everybody says power comes from, pushing off the right foot. Okay, power comes from this sense of squatting to the ground and pressing off the ground. Think of a baseball pitcher. A baseball pitcher stands there, coils up. People call this a push. I just call it falling down a hill. So they're on this hill. They're falling down this hill, right? They're falling. They haven't spun their hips open they're falling, their rear end's facing, they land and then they can throw it. Golf is the same way. If golfers get spun out of control way too fast, they never really compress far enough, move their hips left enough to really get themselves in a place where they can push and it has any meaning. You know, I'm like, we're not talking about making it that much faster. These are just things to think about. That said, we gotta go think about it on the course.
I would also say that playing bent over,
Yeah.
instead of playing straight up and down, gives us an advantage in the fact that we can extend and flex up and down and create this lever relationship from like our hips to our head,
Right.
right? And even more, so even just the fact that we can extend our neck and our upper back and our pelvis separately
Right,
gives
not
us an
this.
advantage to crack the whip, right?
Tough to crack whip on here, right?
And also the fact that we play golf on a tilted angle lets us bend to the left for a right-handed golfer in the backswing. And as we move our weight forward, we bend to the right through the ball. So there's another lever relationship like this, right? That we can use to generate power. Because I could actually hit a ball just going like this and propel it, right? There'd be some space there, some distance, and I could do something like this, put a club between my legs and smack it and use some power that way.
Yep.
So the fact that we're bent over gives us an advantage to hit the ball further, in my opinion. So some people get really upright with their driver,
Yeah.
and they stand really flat with their shoulders, and they try to swing it around themselves, and I think they're kind of missing out on the idea. They think they can draw it easier, but they actually
Right. They
lose a
can't-
lot of good relationships.
can never get that shape proper to attack the
Yeah.
inside. And that was a little bit, Chris' posture was a little bit too vertical, butt out, and then shoulders turned
So
to
that way.
But we gotta wrap it up, Coach. We missed our tea time.
Okay.
Go to TrackMan, save that.
Nice one.
Right there.